if the internet is, you are live. We are live. Not just you. I'm live too. We're not dead. We're live. Phew. Welcome. Once again, we finally made it. Woo, welcome to the Standout Be Seen podcast. Man, where we empower entrepreneurs and coaches and consultants and people like that to break through the noise, take the guesswork out of identifying and targeting your ideal clients, and connect with more qualified leads.
Yes, we do. And good morning, everyone. I'm Anza Goodbar, your guide to developing a fearless branding voice and strategic marketing plan. Together, Monty and I will unpack proven strategies, share insider insights, and dive deep into what it truly takes to make you stand out in today's crowded marketplace.
And I'm Monty Armstrong. Whether you're here to elevate your personal brand, grow your business, or simply find the motivation to take that next step, even if it's a half step, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to be talking about measuring what matters, how entrepreneurs can track the impact of their branding and marketing over time, which is an interesting topic because I have very little of that. I do very little measuring in little chunks, and Anza has all kinds of great insights. So we're going to be able to mash up a little bit and come at this from a couple different angles.
Mm-hmm. Well, the reason that I thought about this as a topic today was one of my clients is heavily into data and using data to make decisions for all aspects of her business growth. And we've been talking about the success of her marketing campaigns. And she doesn't feel, which is interesting because she's a data-driven person, but she doesn't feel like she's making any impact. And so this week, actually the end of last week, I was pulling together numbers for her to be able to show the successes that we've had. And it's really interesting when you look at gauging the success of your marketing. Because oftentimes, day to day, when we look at how many engagements we've had, how many comments, how many likes, how many reposts or shares are happening, we can't see what that trend is. We really have to rely on having some kind of data, whether it's a graph or some kind of a report that can give us a percentage of progress forward or backward, right? That's how we can determine as marketers what's working and what's not. And so, from my perspective, all data is important and helpful for us. And, you can gauge what kind of content you might be sharing the same information, but the way that you share it might change based on the data that you get. I've been experimenting with video, and my people aren't as responsive to video as they are to checklists. I find that to be fascinating. I find it to be interesting. But I know that if I do more checklists, they respond. It's the way that they like to devour content. And so when we're looking at this great experiment that we call marketing, there's so many different ways that we can slice and dice it, but I think it's a customized journey. It isn't one size fits all. Just because checklists work great for my people doesn't mean that Monty's people are going to like that. His people might like music a whole lot more or actual video content. And, let's talk about that a little bit. I know that this is a new thing for you, but what kind of response have you been getting since you've been putting out some of your original songs?
Well, I just started, so I don't have a lot of time to measure that. But
Hmm.
there's been on the chart of the different things that you can track, all those different data. There has been more engagement than there has been on some of my other things.
Hmm.
What I find interesting, just to back up a little bit, because what you were talking about, all data is important, although
Right.
not all data is relevant depending on what you're looking at. So we
Hmm.
need to know what is it that we're wanting to track. So when some
Right.
people say, hey, I don't think this is working for me, they might be looking at, I don't see my sales going up. And so
Right.
therefore it could be in a situation of, well, let's look at this from an ad point of view? What if we were spending money on ads? Because when
Mm-hmm.
we talk about marketing, we're usually talking about generic content marketing, not
Right.
generic organic content
Right.
marketing. And so in the ad scenario, you have to say, I want more clicks to my website. I want more clicks to the buy button. I want more um, likes. I want more follows. I want, all those different
Mm-hmm.
things are different ways of measuring your success.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
that's the first part that for me, I didn't have a lot of those aspects in my world
Right.
to really understand.
Mm-hmm.
There's Carl jumping in, liking the topic. Thanks for joining
Yay.
in, Carl. It is a fun topic. the so when I said little tiny bits, I'm only looking at the aspects of, I guess impressions might be the best word. I really don't like
Mm-hmm.
the way impressions work, but it gives you the starting point. So there's kind of levels with
Right.
impressions and reactions and comments and all these different levels of things that you can look at and clicks and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
the first level for me is just that impressions, and you can't get a true feeling of much of anything all by itself with impressions, other than it's being seen more.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily mean anything. It could be seen, but it might not
Mm-hmm.
be getting clicked on. And if getting clicked on is your goal, then that's not enough. Um,
Right.
so there's that aspect that I am limited, like I said, for little bits of. What was the one that you I didn't write it down. We'll get to that, the some of the other metrics that you're more familiar with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's my first one.
Right. Well, I think that there's something that you said that we should talk a little bit further about is the idea of impressions. Many of the entrepreneurs that you and I work with are new entrepreneurs. And so it's about building brand awareness. So measuring impressions as a KPI is a great indicator for you to look at. Where was I when I started? Where am I now? And then start looking at those trends. And it's interesting, this particular client, as we were looking at her impressions, and even though she's been in business for a long time, she didn't start using social media until about 18 months ago. And so, even though as a brick and mortar, she's been pretty established, in the world of online business, she's still really new. And so, we've been working hard to build brand awareness. So, when we started about 18 months ago, she was getting like 75 impressions a week on her posts. We were posting about twice a week. Um, if there was some kind of promotion going on, like she was hosting a webinar, could be more, but with core content, a couple times a week. When we look at that 18-month span, now she has individual posts that are getting 2,400 impressions. Her percentage has gone up, and this is a crazy number, 29,500% over the last year. I mean, that sounds really huge. And for her, it is, right? It's not this unrealistic number that we can look at. When we started, we were getting less than 100 impressions. Now, on certain posts that she puts out, she's approaching 2,500 ish. So that's a great indicator. We can go back and we can look at that over the last 3 months of time and say, oh, over the last 3 months, we've had a 950% increase in what her impressions and her engagement have been. And then we're able to go and look at what brought those spikes. What are those particular kinds of posts that really made an impact? And I know this isn't going to be a big surprise to you, but it was sharing her story. This particular client was a survivor of a brain tumor. And whenever she shares an aspect of her story, people lean in because it wasn't just a medical thing that she went through. While that was an amazingly powerful story, she has life lessons for leadership that came through that. And she deals with executives, and they want to hear more about leadership development. Leadership sometimes comes out of adversity in our personal stories. And so being able to share those things draws her audience's attention in. And so through these kind of metrics that we have access to, we can pinpoint those types of stories that have more power to them. And I can tell you, it doesn't matter how many times we share it, those stories get the same level of response because we tell them in a different context or a little bit differently every time. And so I think that you made a really great point too about sales, using sales as a metric. Um, Typically, we don't use social media marketing outside of running ads as a sales tool. Um, and this is something that I have had many clients come to me say, well, I'm not converting. I don't have more sales. Well, are we putting out items for people to purchase? Because if you're not, then of course you're not going to get any revenue from your marketing efforts. And so you have to look at what that is that you're putting out there. A better way to measure that, if you're not physically selling through your marketing, is how many more followers do you have? So in this client's instance, we had grown her following over the past 18 months by several hundred people, which turned out to be, I think it was like 36, 37%. And so it's like we have expanded her influence, her circle of influence, if you will, um, by a percentage over time. So again, we might not see that trend on a day-to-day basis, even a week-to-week basis, but if we can look back over a 90-day period, a 6-month period, a year, we can start to see the growth and the impact that we're having as we look at measuring our success. Another way that we can measure our success is through lead generation, putting your lead magnets out there. How many people are clicking and converting, and how many people are you adding to your mailing list is another great way that we can measure those conversions and the impact that we're making through social media. And so it is really important to have the right goal for the campaign that you're using and for what you want to get out of social media. For me, it's visibility. I want to be searchable. I want to be seen. I want to be top of mind when people are searching for the services that I offer. Some people use social media as their primary sales tool, and they're selling every day. Everything that they put out has a call to action to buy something, whether it's a small entry level thing or it's a big high ticket item. They're doing that in every single post. They've got that purpose. And so it's important for you as a brand to decide, how do you want to use this tool of social media to grow your business? And there's no right or wrong answer. It's whatever you uniquely need in your business to be able to grow. And then you want to be able to tailor your marketing efforts around that strategy.
I like what you said, made me think of, it's like, well, I haven't made any more sales. It's like, well, what have you offered to sell? So it's similar to, like, say, I haven't won the lottery, but I haven't bought any tickets,
Right,
so
right.
it's similar to that. How can you track that
Yeah,
metric if you don't have anything out there to provide the data for it?
right. And it's interesting. And I'll tell you, I have been guilty of this in my own business. I don't want to appear salesy, right? I don't want to be sold to. And so many of the women that I work with have that same perspective. And so the question becomes, how do I sell without pushing my products or vomiting sales content all over people all the time? And, for me, it's making that invitation. This is what I'm up to. Would love to take you with me. you're invited to join me on this journey of whatever the thing is that I'm doing. I'm not selling anything. I'm not saying, buy this or get out your credit card. Never, 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 right? It's like, hey, we've got this thing. If you've got this problem, we've got this solution. Come with us. We're going to work on this together. And I think it's really important when you're building your branding voice to be able to determine what is your sales type, because not everybody has the same perspective on sales. Some people are very direct and, they ask for the sale. Um, Yesterday, I had a realtor at, um, connect with me on LinkedIn, and he happens to be in the Denver area. Said he wanted to, just connect with other business people in the area. 3 times, 3 messages. Do you want to buy or sell a house? All 3 of those. And I was like, I don't even want to work with you because you don't even know if I want to buy a house or need a house or want to sell a house. You just jumped right in with, hey, if you want to buy a house, I'm your guy. And it was like, well, get to know me a little bit first. That probably works very well with the demographic of person people that he wants to work with. So again, you need to know your audience, you need to know what your philosophy is on sales, and you need to know how your people like to be sold to in order to do that in a cohesive way, in order to build client loyalty, right? To have repeat customers coming back. All of those things come together when we're looking at build or when we're looking at our metrics. What's our client retention rate? That's another metric for us to measure to know if our marketing messaging and strategy is working. That's a huge one.
Here's something that you were saying there that's interesting to think about is looking at the metrics of I made an offer and it was refused. How many times is my offer being accepted? If you look at that metric all by itself, you might overlook the fact that you're filtering out non-ideal clients.
Right.
So data is, like statistics can be misinterpreted or presented in a form that doesn't actually represent the entire picture. So
Right.
sometimes identifying that what I'm trying to accomplish is the first step, but then also seeing the critical thinking. What else is happening here aside from people aren't taking my offer? I only had 1 out of every 40 people take the offer. What was the quality of the one?
Exactly. Exactly. Um, I was invited to participate in one of the LinkedIn, you can add your expertise to this article kind of thing. And the question being posed was, what do you do if a client oversteps the boundary and says something inappropriate while you're working with them? And I was reading through other people's responses, and one of the people said, and I thought that this was so brilliant, was, I can't imagine that ever happening because I put so much effort into my core values to make sure I'm in alignment with the people that I want to work with. So my marketing message is being very clear that this is the ideal client for me. So I can't even imagine that scenario coming up. And I thought, what a brilliant marketing message. Because you're right. If we're doing the right things with our marketing, people are self selecting in or out. So the people that are saying yes are far more qualified than just getting a yes from absolutely everybody. And that's what we want to do in a very organic way, because not everybody is the right person for us. And that's okay. And that's really a good thing in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
story. My story from brick and
Hmm.
mortar and burnout and identifying the client so that way I could move forward and not have the um as we've referenced qualified leads, qualified clients, but
Right.
quality, not just quantified, but
Hmm.
qualified. or it is quantified. I don't know. I got too many cues going on now. But the point being is that it's not just the number of them. It's, do they align with you? Do they want? Are
Right.
they loyal? Do they want to stay with you? Do they
Hmm.
add? So here's another aspect of that, although it's going off of metrics a little bit, but since we're on the topic of talking about, are they getting what they need? Are they providing you what you need as far as a client goes? Because
Right.
it's nice if you give out value and they pay you money. It's better if you give out value, they pay you money, and then give you opinions and advice that help you improve it.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, that's another aspect too. When we're looking at matrix and data, is I think it's really vital to be sending out surveys and getting feedback from your people. If you did, and since we work a lot with coaches and consultants, I'm going to use the example of, you did a mastermind group or you did a group coaching program. Get feedback, find out what was working, what could you do better, what would they like to see as a next step, what would they like to see as bonuses. Ask those questions and bring in that data. Then you're able to even up level what your marketing is for offers that you're putting together in the future. But I think that you're absolutely right. And this is maybe a non-quantifiable data point, but how much did you enjoy working with those people? Versus, and many new solopreneurs that I've worked with over the years, they take the business because they need the revenue to get to the next step. And so they end up working with people that they don't necessarily enjoy. And it's like putting a square peg in a round hole, and they're
It's also
miserable. They
setting
don't feel
yourself up.
satisfied.
It's setting yourself up for one and done. Oh,
Right.
I don't want to work with this person. Let me just get through this thing and I'll be done. And then I can go and find somebody else,
Exactly.
rather than
Exactly.
having that, hey, this is perfect. Well, would you
Hmm.
like to go to the next step with me? And then you're not finding
Hmm.
somebody new. You're just continuing a relationship and building it even further.
Right. Well, and I'm going to use our BAM program as an example here. We've run a couple 12-week programs, and the people that have run through programs have asked us, what's the next step? Are you going to have XYZ? We want to stay in this journey with you. And, if you did your marketing correctly and you brought in your ideal clients, and like you said, you enjoyed working with those clients, there's value going both ways, and then you get that client retention. They want to work with you more. They want to extend that experience. That's a huge metric to be able to um, determine the success of your branding and your messaging. And there's so many different ways that you can slice and dice this. And again, there's no right or wrong. It's what metric is important to you as a business owner, you know, at this point of time in your business. And those metrics will change and grow as you change and grow. And as you start moving people, through your funnel. But initially, the first metric is really brand awareness that you want to be able to measure. How is your brand perceived? And that kind of moves us into different tools. And I know that you haven't really used a lot of these tools in your business, but over the years, there are several tools that I've used in my own business and with clients to be able to measure different kinds of performance. And one of them is a free tool and it's called Google Alerts. Have you used it at all, Monty?
No, have not.
No. Okay. Well, I have used Google Alerts in a lot of different ways, and you can just type in Google Alerts and you can sign up for things. And so let's say I want to know every time my name is mentioned somewhere in social media, in an article, or my business name. Um, I can put that in, and every day I'll get a notification in my email that says, hey, your brand or your name or this hashtag, whatever it is that you want to search for, will come in your email box, and you can know what kind of buzz people are having about whatever it is that you're wanting to measure. So that's a really easy tool. It doesn't give you what they call sentiments. So you don't hear that people are saying, "Oh, gee, it's really great to work with Anza Goodbar," or "Oh, influencer marketing is, your go-to person." It doesn't give you those kinds of things. It just pulls up the data that says, "Hey, you were mentioned in this
Yeah, but
article
you know
or on
what's
this
interesting
feature."
about that is that that's what's important, is that you were mentioned. It's not
Right.
important about why you were mentioned, which is interesting.
Exactly.
So in my brick and
Mhm.
mortar business, I had an episode where there was a slight confrontation on the public street,
Mhm.
and I just turned and walked away. And the person decided to continue the confrontation, pulled out their phone, went live on Facebook, and my business name is on the
Oh,
back of my shirt. And he's
right.
like, "Oh, this guy says blah, 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 blah." Well, for the next week, I had 3 times as many phone calls for work.
Right? Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so the point there was Google said, "Oh, you're looking for this type of business in your search. This business
Mhm.
is being talked about a whole bunch."
Mhm.
Doesn't matter
That's
what's being
exactly
said.
right.
Google just says it's being talked about a whole bunch. It's hot. Check it out.
It Check it out. That's right. And so I think, and it's really important to know, this is a silly story, um, of what's being said, because, like you said, there could be negative things. You can turn those into a positive. Somebody was using my name and posting on some unsavory sites, just crazy stuff. Like, I just can't even repeat some of the stuff, but it was like, it was not me, um, who was doing it. And it gave me the opportunity to go in and go to that website and say, "Cease and desist. You should not be doing this. Whoever's using my name is not me." Ta da ta da ta da. I was able to get some of those things taken down, and so in that respect, that can be a good thing. But like you said, having those mentions and being more searchable is really interesting, in how it can bring more qualified leads to you as well. Because if you are the hot topic, people are going to pause and at least make it to your website. It gives you that opportunity to say, "This is who I am. Here's some free tools that I have. Sign up for a call to get to know me." And so Google Alerts can be a really great tool for that kind of conversion. um, you know that I use SmarterQ for all of my scheduling and, social media management, kind of things.
Yeah,
They
you've been
have
using
great
that for
data points
weeks now.
for weeks. And, I have used so many different tools over the past 20 years, and this is my favorite. And poor Monty gets to hear every day all the things that I love about SmarterQ. But one of the things that I really love is their analytics, because even before you start using Smarter Q, you can go in with the free version and you can say, "Analyze my social media profiles." And you can get some data right away to see what's happening from the beginning of time when you started posting, or a very specific between dates. And again, it's going to help you see how many more followers have you picked up, where are people looking at your stuff the most, at what time of day are your posts being looked at and seen, where's the pattern of where you have more likes. There's so much data. Again, it doesn't do the mentioning or any competitor comparison like some of the tools do, but it gives you everything at a glance, and it gives you more than what you would get from looking at Google, or not, I'm sorry, at LinkedIn, or at, Facebook or Instagram individually. And so I really love being able to go in and say, "Oh, I just started trying this new thing. I want to see what's happening with it." I can see things immediately. I can really pinpoint. And so if you're not getting the the traction, or you don't think that you're getting the traction that you have with something, a new campaign, don't go with your gut, don't go with your feeling. Go and look at some analytics and be able to measure with actual data. um, this is another tool that I've used in the past. I don't currently use it, but it's called Mention. And Mention tracks every time that you're mentioned across social media through websites or blogs in real time. It provides analytics that assesses the sentiment, and this is the cool part, it compares you against your competitors. And as far as I know, it's the only tool that really does that. And when I first started my coaching business, oh, this was around 2011 ish, I was using Mention, and it was fascinating to see the data that came back. And so, if you've done your competitor research and you know who your competitors are, Mention can be a really great tool for seeing those comparisons and how your brand is viewed compared to the brand of your competitors. And
And
again,
I'd like to point out, it's not necessarily competitors. It could be what is often referred to as the Dream 100. You can compare yourself to this. These are the people that are having the success that I want to get. So what is
right,
working for them? They happen to
right.
have the same audience as I do. What time is their audience engaging with them?
Hmm.
So those are, I just like that opportunity analysis versus competitor all the time.
Right, right. I agree. I agree. Um, Hootsuite Insights. I used Hootsuite for many years with many of my clients, and you can track your social media conversations. I think even inside of Hootsuite, you can still go in and you can manage all of your commenting inside of their site. So, whatever platforms you're on, you can see everyone who's commented. It's all in one place for you. It makes it really easy. But they also help you understand your audience emotions, and they help you identify trends. So you can see the emotional triggers that you are pushing through your content. And usually, if you've got an emotional trigger, you've got higher engagement and higher um, comments and shares and that type of thing. And then Sprout Social, I follow them. I haven't used their tool, but they are an amazing resource, and they provide what's called social listening, and they give you that sentiment analysis too. And so I think I'm going to need to go in and check and see what they're doing. But as you're looking at understanding what key influencers are doing in the marketplace and looking at what's really working, like you said, for that Dream 100, what are things that you can be emulating? What are things that are working that other people are doing when you have an overlay in your target audience? Again, looking at how do they like to digest what time their content, not their food, um, and what time are they showing up, what platforms are they showing up on, and really being able to tailor your marketing efforts for what's already working in the marketplace. Having these different data insights are invaluable. So, if you're not using any of those tools yet, I would really encourage you to grab one and try one, even if you just start with Google Alerts. See what comes up. It can be fascinating, um, because you never know when somebody's going to rerun a piece or share a piece of something that you did. Um, I have been surprised that things that I did 8 or 10 years ago are still being shared and circulated today. And it's good to know that, because maybe some things are outdated, right? Things in marketing have changed a lot in the last 8 to 10 years. That gives you the opportunity to go in and create a new piece of content that can share the evolution of whatever that thought or idea was. So,
Or if you're like me and some of that's like, man, I don't want to run around and worry about social media and what's being said where and who cares? It's so that
yeah,
that's okay. That there's
right.
different metrics that I can look at that will help me guide my actions. Am I doing these at the right time? Am I doing the right content? Am I having the right emotional trigger? Am I
Hmm.
should I tell more stories? Should I tell less stories? Should I tell longer stories? Should I tell them shorter?
Mhm.
All those are
Mhm.
different things that you can check out and follow with the impressions and engagements and clicks and all the different metrics. But be aware that you don't want to just look at them all in a big group all the time, that we want to have
Right.
some sort of pattern and structure, or more of
Mhm.
structure so we can see the pattern. Because by seeing the pattern is where we can say, well, how can we adjust that? The pattern isn't where I want it to be. Or
Right.
we can say, hey, things are going great. I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing because this is good. Or
Mhm.
I'm doing the right thing. I'm going to do more of it because I want to see that go steeper.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I think it's really important to say that, marketing is a big experiment. So if you're just starting out your digital marketing journey, don't expect to have immediate results. You have to give it time to be able to develop a pattern for you to look at. So if you think something isn't working, don't jump ship and start something new. Give it at least 90 days to take a look at some real data so you can really make a good informed decision before you start tweaking things. And then don't just, wipe the slate clean and just start from scratch and, just throw things against the wall and see what sticks. Start by changing one thing at a time and refining what you're doing rather than be all or nothing or stop and start. um, really be mindful about what you're doing as you're building your brand and you're really creating your message, and especially if you don't have your avatar fully dialed in yet, pay really close attention to those little nuances, because maybe the messaging doesn't need to change as much as refining your avatar. Because once you have that avatar refined, everything else just organically falls in place. At least that's been my experience.
And a big key point with that is this isn't a test experience, an experiment. It's not an experiment to figure out the right answer and then you're done.
Right.
It's a continuous experiment. It's a journey. It's
Hmm.
because things change. So even when you do dial it in, dialing in is for now. And then later you continue that process of, is it still working? Is it still working? Could it work better? And
Right.
then when we're not working as well as it used to. So now we're gonna do the tweaking part, do the dialing in part, but having the
Hmm.
overview of the whole thing so that we can see patterns and maybe identify, rather than tweaking and dialing in, it's change strategies, change tactics.
Right.
So
I agree.
yeah. Well, I think that we could go on and on and on with that, but we should probably wrap that up. But if people are wondering, well, how do I implement all of this stuff? How do I get these metrics and which ones and how do I do that? We have
Hmm.
a program we're starting in January that will walk through the 3 foundational steps that are needed, all the data that is needed, so that you can carry forward with that. That's where a lot of entrepreneurs have the obstacle. They know what they need to do, but they haven't gathered all the data so that they can see the patterns, so that they can figure out what to do. They just know they need to.
Right. That's
So
absolutely
that would
right.
be our brand audience message program. Bam!
Bam.
Do we have a link for that? We'll have to
I
we'll
don't
put a link in the
know.
comments. That's what we'll do, is
We'll
we'll
put,
put a link
yeah,
in the comments
yeah,
because it's much easier that way.
it is. It is. It is.
And
Uh,
Vicky, great. I'm glad you joined us. I'm glad you found it helpful. And happy Thanksgiving to you as well, my friend,
Happy
and everyone
Thanksgiving,
else.
Vicky. Yeah. Well, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us today. As always, please leave a comment, ask a question. Make sure that you grab a free copy of our PDF book, the Ideal Client Map, and we'll put the link for that in the comments as well. And remember that your voice matters, your brand matters, and most of all, you matter. Until next time,
You matter.
you matter.
We'll see you soon. Maybe
Bye,
even on the next
everybody.
Standout Be Seen.
I hope so.
Take care.